Samsaradava nalalita loka Taranaya karunya kana kanatam Praptasya kalyana gunarnavasya Vande uroshi charanarvindam Mahaprabhu Kirtana Nritya Gita Vaditra Madhyan Manasora Sena Romanchakam Pashutaranga Bhajo Vande Uroshi Charanarvindam Shivikrahara Dana Nitya Nana Shingara Tamman Tiramarjanado Yutasya Bhaktam Chaniyunjatopi Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Chaturvidashi Bhagavat Prasada Swadharna Tripta Hari Bhakta Sangha Kriteva Triptim Padata Sadaiva Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Shiratika Mahadavayura Para Madhurya Lila Gunarupa Namna Patishana Sadanalolupasa Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Nikunja yuno ratikeli sitai Yayari pir yuktira pishaniya Tatrati daksha dati valabhasa Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Sashatari Tena Samasta Shastre Uttasthatha Bhavita Eva Sadhihi Kintu Prabhorya Priyeva Tasya Vande Guroshi Charanarvindam Yasya Prasadaha Bhagavat Prasado Yasya prasadam nagati kutopi. Dhyayantu vam tasya yashasti sandhyan Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Vande Guru Shri Charanarvindam Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Gopaha Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudana Giridhari Gopina Madana Mohana Sri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Sita Hari Guru Vaishnava Bhagavata Gita Shri Rupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha Hare Haraya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Radha Nila Madhava Radha Nila Madhava Shri Radhe. Jaya Jagannatha Jaya Baladeva Jaya Subhadra Jaya Sudarshana. Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman Jaya Sitaram Jaya Lakshman Hanuman. Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha Jaya Lakshmi Narasingha. Jaya Gauranita 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 Jaya Gauranita. Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada. Nittai Gaura Haribo 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 Nittai Gaura Haribo. Jai Om Shripada Paramhamsa Pradeka Acharya Ashtota Shata Shishima Divine Grace Abharachana Rinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON founder Acharya BPT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Shripada Paramhamsa Pradeka Acharya Ashtota Shata Shishima His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Nama Acharya Srila Haridasa Thakur Ki Jai. Premise Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Brajabhumi Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Ayodhya Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Samavrita Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bo. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glory to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
आइए माता जी।
Thank you. Namaste Narashingaya Praladadadaine Hiranyakashipurvakshaha Chilatankanakayae Hito nashinga parato nashinga Yato yato yami tato nashinga. Bahir Narsinga Hridaye Nasimha. Narasinga Madim Sharanam Prabhate. Tavakara Kamalavare Nakam Bhuta Shingaram Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Nakam Adbhuta Shringaram Dalita Hiranyakashipu Tanubringam Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Jai Jagadisha Hare Keshavadrita Narahari Rupa Jai Jagadisha Hare 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 Jai Nashingadev Jai Nashingadev Jai Nashingadev Jai Nashingadev Jaya Bhakta Pralad Jaya Bhakta Pralad Jaya Bhakta Pralad Jaya Bhakta Pralad Bhakta Pralad Nitya Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitya Gaura Hari Bol नरसिंहदेव भगवान की जय प्रहलाद महाराज की टैगोर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल
जय श्री श्री राधा माधव भगवान की
नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो ए अभिलाषी राधा कृष्णा सेवा पावो ये अभिलाषी नमो नमः तुलसी कृष्ण प्रेयसी नमो नमः जे तो मार शरण लोय तारा वंचा पूर्णा हो कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी ओ कृपा कोरी कोरो तारे वृंदावन वासी मोराए अभिलाष विलास कुंज दियो वास नयने हरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि नयने हेरिबो सदा युगल रूप राशि ए निवेदन धर शकीर अनुगत कोरो निवेदन धर शकीर अनुगत कोरो सेवाधिकार दिए कोरो निज दासी सेवाधिकार दिए कोरो निज दासी दीन कृष्ण दास को ए नमोरा हो श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदाय न भाषी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदाय न भाषी श्री राधा गोविंदा प्रेमे सदाय न भाषी यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि च पापानि ब्रह्मत्यधिकानि च तानि तानि प्रणश्यन्ति प्रदक्षिण पदे पदे यानि कानि हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम ओ हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा 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 जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय तुलसी महारानी जय वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी जय वृंदे देवी निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल निताय गौरा हरि बोल वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य विष्णु भक्ति देवी सत्योसाय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य विष्णु भक्ति देवी सत्योसाय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य कृष्ण भक्ति देवी सत्योसाय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य विष्णु भक्ति देवी सत्योसाय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य कृष्ण भक्ति देवी सत्योसाय नमो नमः वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवस्य विष्णु भक्ति देवी वृंदावे तुलसी महारानी भक्ति देवी की
Whoever takes shelter of you has a wish fulfilled. Bestow mercy upon him and make him a resident of Vrindavana. My desire is also grant me residence in the precious groves of Shiva and Vrindavana town. Thus within my vision I shall always behold the beautiful pastime of Radha and Krishna. I beg you to make me follow or Rakara Danso's virgin. Please give me the privilege of devotional service and make me your own maid servant. This very fallen and lowly servant of Krishna prays. May I always swim in the love of Shri Radha and Govinda. Srimati Tulsi Maharani ki jai. There are 10 fences in the matter of chanting holy names that should be avoided, and they are as follows. 1. To blaspheme the devotees who have dedicated their life for the propagation of holy name of the Lord. 2. To consider the name of the demigods, Lord Shiva or Brahma, to be equal to independent name Lord Vishnu. 3. To disobey the order of the spiritual master. 4. To blaspheme the Vedic literature or literature pursuing the Vedic version. 5. To consider the glories of chanting Hare Krishna to be imagination. 6. To give some interpretation to holy name of the Lord. 7. To commit sinful activities and strength of chanting holy name. 8. To consider chanting Hare Krishna one of the auspicious ritualistic activities, offering the Vedas as fruity activities, karma, kanda. 9. To instruct a faithless person about glory of holy name. 10. To not complete faith in the chanting holy names, and to maintain material attachments in understanding so many instructions on this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must carefully guard against these 10 offenses in order to quickly achieve desired success. Krishna Prema. Now let us have our most humble obeisances on all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just as high trees who can fulfill to everyone. They are full of compassion, fallen, conditioned souls.
Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitabhana Namo Namo.
Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavakni Nirvapanam Shriya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavatu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purunarami Sadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapita Niyamita Smaranina Kalaha Etadishi Tavakripa Bhagavam Mamapi Durudevami Disham Yahajanina Nurakaha Trinatapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnuna Amanina Manadena Kirtanya Sada Harihi Na Thanam Na Janam Na Sundarim Kavitam Va Jagadisha Kamaye Mama Jammani Jammanishvare Bhavata Bhaktir Haituki Tvai Ayinanda Tanuja Kinkaram Patitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kripaya Tava Pada Pankaja Stithaturi Satesham Vichintaya Nayanam Galata Shrudaraya Vatanam Katkata Rudaya Gira Pulakai Nichitam Bapu Kada Tavanama Grahane Pavishati Yuga Itam Nimishena Chakshusha Pravisha Itam Shunya Itam Jagat Sarvam Govinda Virahe Name Ashrisha Padratam Pinnashtumam Atarshanam Marmhatam Karotuva Yatha tatha va vitatha lampato mat prananathastu se eva na paraha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Chaitanya Shikshastakam ki jai.
Glory
To Shri Krishna Sankirtana, which consists
part of all the dust accumulated
for years and is 25 conditional life, a repeated birth and death. This Sankirtana movement is prime benediction for humanity at large, because it spreads a rays and vanishing moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss, and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, your holy name alone grants all benediction human beings. Thus you have hundreds of millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. They are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness enables easily approach you by holy names. But I am so unfortunate to have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than the tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda, I am your eternal servitor. Yet somehow or other I fall into this ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at my lotus feet. O my Lord, when my eyes be decorated with tears of love, constantly when I chant holy names. When my voice choke up and one of the hairs on my body stand on end at the recitation of your name. O Govinda, feeling of separation, I am consider moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so if he handles me roughly by his embrace, or makes me broken-hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord, unconditionally. Shri Chaitanya Siksastakam Ki Jai. Shri Guru Pranama Prayers Ki Jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshum Litam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurung Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vidamsha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pachadya Desha Tarine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shri Varshabhani Devi Daitaya Kripaptaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhavin Namaha Madhuryo Jala Premadya Shri Rupanuga Bhaktita Shri Gaura Karana Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Siddhanta Dvanta Harine Namo Gaurikishoraya Sasha Vairagya Murtaye Vipalambara Sambodhe Padambo Jayate Namaha Namo Bhaktivinodaya Sachidananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanuga Varayate Gauravir Bhava Bhumistwan Nirdeshta Sajana Priya Vaishnava Sava Bhauma Shri Jaganathaya Te Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindhubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratishe Namaha. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakham Namami Bhakta Shaktikam. He Krishna Karna Sindho Dinabandho Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Jayatam Surato Bangor Mamamanda Mater Gati Matsarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vindadana Kalpa Jumadaha Shimad Ranakara Singhasanastho Shimad Radha Shila Govinda Devo Prishtali Sevimano Smarami Shiman Rasa Rasarambi Vamsi Vata Tatastita Karsham Vinustaner Gopir Gopinata Shri Istunaha Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusate Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Shri Guru Pranama prayers ki jai. Shri Brahma Samhita ki jai. Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachitananda Vigraha Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam Chintamani Prakara Satma Sukalpa Vriksha Laksha Vrite Susurabir Vipaliyantam Lakshmi Sahasra Satasambhrama Sevyamanam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Venam Granantam Adavinda Dalayataksham Barhavatam Samasitam Buddhasundarangam Kandarpakoti Kamaniya Vishesa Sobham Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Alola Chandra Kala Sadmana Madhya Vamsi Ratnam Gadam Pranayakeri Kala Vilasam Shamam Tribanga Lalita Nita Prakasam Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Manandasya Sakalendriya Vritti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Chiram Jaganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadujvala Vigrahasya Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Bhaktimanantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayuvanamcha Vedesa Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhakto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Pantastukoti Satavatsara Sampragamyo Vayoratapi Manaso Munipungamana Sobhyasti Yat Papadasimya Vichintya Tatve Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ekopya Sora Chayatam Jagadanda Kotim Yaschakti Rasti Jagadanda Chayayadanta Andanta Rasta Paramanu Chayanta Rastam Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Yad Bhava Bhavita Diyo Manajasta Taiva Samprakya Rupa Mahima Salayana Bhusa Suktaryameva Nigamai Pratitaistavanti Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Ananda Chinmaya Rasat Pratibhavitabis Taviya Eva Nijarupa Tayakalabi Goloka Eva Nivasata Kilatma Bhuto Govinda Madi Purisham Tamaham Bhajami Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santaksadeva Hidesu Vilokayanti Yam Shama Sundaram Achintya Gunaswarupam Govinda Mati Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Ramadi Murti Sukala Niyamena Tistan Nana Bhataram Akarud Bhuvanesu Kintu Krishna Swayam Samabhavat Paramam Pumamyo Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. Krishna, who is known as Govinda, is the Supreme Godhead. He has an eternal, blissful, spiritual body. He is the origin of all. He has no other origin, and he is the prime cause of all causes. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, the first progenitor, who is tending the cows, yielding all desire. in abodes built with spiritual gems surrounded by millions of purpose trees, always served with great reverence and affection by hundreds of thousands of Lakshmis or Gopis. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is adept in playing on his flute, with blooming eyes like lotus petals, with head decked with peacock's feather, with the figure of beauty tinged with the hue of blue clouds, and his unique loveliness charming millions of cupids. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, round whose neck is swinging a garland of flowers, beautified with the moon locket, whose 2 hands are adorned with the flute and jeweled ornaments, who always revels in pastimes of love, whose graceful, threefold bending form of Shamsundar is eternally manifest. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, whose transcendental form is full of bliss, truth, substantiality, and is thus full of the most dazzling splendor. Each of the limbs of that transcendental figure possesses in himself the full-fledged functions of all the organs, and eternally sees, maintains, and manifests the infinite universes, both spiritual and mundane. I worship Okay, go ahead. I'll read that. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is inaccessible to the Vedas, but obtainable by pure, unalloyed devotion to the soul, who is without a second, who is not subject to decay, is without a beginning, whose form is endless, and who is the beginning and the eternal Purusha. Yet he is a person possessing the beauty of blooming youth. Go ahead.
I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, only the tip of the toe of whose lotus feet is approached by the yogis who aspire after the transcendental and betake themselves to pranayama by drilling the respiration, or by the jnanis who try to find out the non-differentiated Brahman by the process of elimination of the mundane, extending over thousands of millions of years. He is an undifferentiated entity, as there is no distinction between potency and the possessor thereof. In his work of creation of millions of worlds, his potency remains inseparable. All the universes exist in him, and he is present in his fullness in every one of the atoms that are scattered throughout the universe at one and at the same time. Such is the primeval Lord whom I adore. I adore the same Govinda, the primeval Lord, in whose praise men who are imbued with devotion sing the mantra suktas told by the Vedas by gaining their appropriate beauty, greatness, thrones, conveyances, and ornaments. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, residing in his own realm Goloka with Radha, resembling his own spiritual figure, the embodiment of the ecstatic potency possessed of the 64 artistic activities, in the company of her confident Sakhis, embodiments of the extensions of her bodily form, permeated and vitalized by his ever blissful spiritual rasa. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who is Shyamsundara, Krishna himself with inconceivable, innumerable attributes, whom the pure devotees see in their heart of hearts with the eye of devotion tinged with the salve of love. I worship Govinda, the primeval Lord, who manifested himself personally as Krishna and the different avatars in the world in the forms of Rama, Nrisimha, Vamana, etc. as his subjective portions.
Jai, Shri Brahma Samhita Ki Jai. Glorification of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.1. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Janmadyasya yata nivyad itaratas chartesu avigyaswarat tene brahma hidaya adhikavaye muyanti yatsureha tejo varimadam yata vinimayo yatra tisargo misha damna svena sada nirasta kuhakam satyam param dhimahi. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Sri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and the primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance, and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations, and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion, as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen on fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of the three modes of material nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from the illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is the absolute truth. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.2. Dharma prochita kaitra vocha nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam atra vastu shivadam tapo trayon mulanam. Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krinte Kimva Parir Ishwaraha Sadyo Hidi Avarudyate Tra Kriti Bihi Sususubis Takshana. Completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated, this Bhagavata Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.1.3. Nigama kalpatarur galitam phalam sukumakad amrita dravya samyatam pibata bhagavatam rasam malayam muhur ahoraska bhuvibhavu kaha. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami, therefore this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarine juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam Grantaraj ki jai. So today we are going to read Canto 3, Chapter 9, verse 32. But we're also going to go back. Wait a minute. We're also going to go back and do some things, or explain some things that I was not able to finish. Anyway, let's read 32. Yatatu sarva bhutesu darushe agnim iva stitam pratichakshitamam loko jayat taryeva kasmalam. Yada, when, to, but, sarva, all, bhutesu, in the living entities, darusu, in wood, agnim, fire, iva, like, stitam, situated, pratichaksita, you shall see, mam, me, loka, and the universe. Jayat, can give up. Tarhi, then at once. Eva, certainly. Kasmalam, illusion. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. You will see me in all living entities, as well as in all over the universe, just as fire is situated in wood. Only in that state of transcendental vision will you be able to be free from all kinds of illusion. Very interesting verse. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Who wants to read? Anybody? Ladies?
Brahma prayed that he might not forget his eternal relationship with the Lord during the course of his material activities. In answer to that prayer, the Lord said that he should not think of existing without a relationship with his omnipotency. The example is given of the fire in wood. The fire kindled in wood is always the same, although the wood may be of different types. Similarly, the bodies within the material creation may be specifically different according to shape and quality, but the spirit souls within them are not different from one another. The quality of fire, warmth, is the same everywhere, and the spiritual spark, or part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, is the same in every living being. Thus, the potency of the Lord is distributed all over His creation. This transcendental knowledge alone can save one from the contamination of material illusion. Since the Lord's potency is distributed everywhere, a pure soul or devotee of the Lord can see everything in relationship with the Lord, and therefore he has no affection for the outer coverings. That pure spiritual conception makes him immune to all contamination of material association. The pure devotee never forgets the touch of the Lord in all circumstances.
Very good. Well, this differentiates the devotee from everybody else. Everybody else is just seeing the outer body. They don't see the soul and the super soul. Because of that, they're confused. They create prejudice. They create sectarianism. They create all these unnecessary principles. So here it says that Brahma prayed that he might not forget his eternal relationship with the Lord during the course of his material activities. Well, that's what everyone is doing. During the course of people's material activities, they're forgetting all about Krishna. That's why this regular hearing and chanting is so important, because our real disease is forgetfulness. You hear one thing, goes in one ear, goes out the other ear. And one time this person who was talking to a devotee, he said, "Well, how was the class today?" And the devotee said, "Oh, it was wonderful." What did he talk about? He said, he talked about Krishna. What did he say about Krishna? He said, oh, well, he said, Krishna is a supreme God. Did he say anything else? Oh, he said a lot of things. Can you say something? I don't exactly remember everything, but it was a wonderful class. So, yeah, there's a person who listened to the class, but how much of it do they remember? That's another question. So, in order to remember more, let's say, distinctly, it's necessary to repeat. It's necessary to go over these things carefully. We're going to forget anyway, that's our disease, but at least we should try our best to repeat things and try to put them into our memory. Or at least take some notes so we don't forget everything. So it says here, Brahma is praying not to forget his eternal relationship with the Lord during the course of his material activities. In answer to that prayer, the Lord said that he should not think of existing without a relationship with his omnipotency. What does that mean exactly? Well, he gives an example of fire. The example is given of the fire in wood. The fire kindled in wood is always the same. In other words, the flame that comes out, even though there's different types of wood, you know, there's birch, there's pine, there's this, there's that. But once it gets on fire and the fire comes out of the wood, it looks more or less the same as other woods also. There might be some small differences, but it looks the same. It's fire. So the same fire is in all woods, but the woods themselves don't exactly look alike. So the example is given of the fire in wood. The fire kindled in wood is always the same, although the wood may be of different types. Similarly, the bodies within the material creation may be specifically different according to shape and quality, but the spirit souls within them are not different from one another. Now, what does that mean? Is this like a Mayavad statement, or the souls are not different? They're all one. No. The quality of the soul. So there's quality and there's equality. So we're talking about quality. As far as quality goes, all the souls are the same. They're eternal. It's not that, well, this soul is not eternal, that soul is eternal, or this soul is half eternal. No, they all have full eternality in the past, the present, and the future. So, qualitatively, they're the same. Quantitatively, they can be different. Like, for example, the super soul is much greater than the individual soul, right? But all the souls, whether they're individual souls or super soul, they're all eternal. So there's qualitative difference, and there might be quantitative difference. But there's qualitative oneness and there's quantitative difference between God and the living entities. But the living entities are coexistent with God as eternal souls. Okay, so it says, similarly, the bodies within the material creation may be specifically different according to shape and quality, but the spirit souls within them are not different from one another. The quality of fire, warmth, is the same everywhere, and the spiritual spark, or part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, is the same in every living entity. Now, see, this does require a little bit of explanation, because when it says the bodies within the material creation may be specifically different according to shape and quality, but the spirit souls within them are not different from one another. Now, you could very easily misinterpret that as being Mayavad philosophy. So, all the souls are the same. I am you, you are me, we are they are us. No, that's not what's being said. When he says all the souls are the same, they're all coexistent eternally with Krishna. In other words, qualitatively they're the same. The soul is eternal. Quantitatively is different. We are just the spirit spark, but Krishna is the supreme whole. So that might require a little bit of explanation, although he explains it. He says the quality of fire, warmth, is the same everywhere, and the spiritual spark, or the part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, is the same in every living entity. In other words, it's eternal. It cannot be killed. It cannot be destroyed. Everything that's explained about the soul in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita is holding true. That's why there's similarities, although there are differences in bodies, but there's similarities as far as the soul goes. This transcendental knowledge alone can save one from the contamination of material illusion. What does that mean? Let's discuss that. This says, this transcendental knowledge alone is referring to the souls being the same meaning they're eternal. This transcendental knowledge alone can save one from the contamination of material illusion. Let's talk about this. Does anyone want to say anything about this? See, this is an important statement that Prabhupada is making. This transcendental knowledge, what's that transcendental knowledge? that he gave the example of fire and wood. Although the wood may look different, smell different, whatever, once the fire is going, it's the same fire, same type of fire than from other woods. So the quality of fire, warmth, is the same everywhere. And the spiritual spark, or part and parcel of the Supreme Spirit, is the same in every living being. Yeah, it's eternal. It's not material. It's not subject to matter. It's not controlled by the laws of material nature. Since the Lord's potency is distributed everywhere, a pure soul, or devotee of the Lord, can see everything in relationship with the Lord, and therefore he has no affection for the outer coverings. So that really explains the previous statement. Since the Lord's potency is, it says, this transcendental knowledge alone can save one from the contamination of material illusion. What is the contamination of material illusion? Well, you see it every day in movies, in advertisements, in television, in all kinds of places. You'll see different bodies, right? There's a very beautiful young lady. There's a very handsome man. And they all have these different types of bodily, let's say, forms. So you can get bewildered by seeing all those bodily forms. And you can start thinking in terms of the body rather than in terms of the soul. So therefore he says, since the Lord's potency is distributed everywhere, a pure soul, or a devotee of the Lord, can see everything in relationship with the Lord, and therefore he has no affection for the outer coverings. The outer coverings are the body. So every day we're seeing pictures of all kinds of different bodies, right? You know, bodybuilder, a very beautiful woman, like you look at the coronation of King, what was his name, Charles. So all the women had these big hats on, gigantic hats, right? And then they're walking around with those hats and the clothing. So, you can get bewildered by it. And you can forget that the soul is the same in all living bodies, and you start seeing the body rather than the soul. And this is what's happening. People are getting fooled by seeing the person as the body rather than seeing the person as the eternal soul. So here Prabhupada says, since the Lord's potency is distributed everywhere, a pure soul, or devotee of the Lord, can see everything in relationship with the Lord. Well, when you say the potency, you're talking about Krishna's expansion as Paramatma, and Krishna's expansions as the Jivatmas. So they're everywhere present. Everywhere, in every planet, they're present. So, but if you see them not as the body, but as a soul, an eternal soul in relationship to Krishna, now you're seeing correctly. If you see the body, you'll be an illusion. See? Now, most people just see the body, and they get into illusion. They say, oh, this one is beautiful. Oh, that one's ugly. Oh, this one is white. Oh, that one is black. And because of all those false, let's say, differences, people sometimes kill each other. People sometimes, they do all kinds of strange things to each other because of only seeing the body and not understanding the existence of the soul. Since the Lord's potency is distributed everywhere, a pure soul, or devotee of the Lord can see everything in relationship with the Lord, and therefore he has no affection for the outer coverings. That pure spiritual conception makes him immune to all contamination of material association. The pure devotee never forgets the touch of the Lord in all circumstances. These are profound statements Prabhupada is making here, especially that pure spiritual conception of seeing the person as a soul and not as a body makes him, and seeing the relationship of the soul to Krishna, and the relationship is multi-leveled. You see the soul, the individual soul, and its relationship to Paramatma, and then you see the relationship of Paramatma with the Purusha avatars, and then you see the relationship of the Purusha avatars with Krishna. So now there's many levels of understanding the relationships. And then you also see the relationship in the material world with Krishna, because he enters into every atom of it, and he is conscious of everything, and he contains everything, and yet he is independent of everything. So once you understand all these things, you're no longer attached to the body and the outer coverings. That pure spiritual conception makes him immune to all contamination of material association. The pure devotee never forgets the touch of the Lord in all circumstances. So, when people can do things with the body, like, for example, they can do different exercises, put their left foot behind their right ear, and everyone goes, wow, look at that, Or they twist their body around, that their head is with their feet or something. You know what I'm talking about. People get amazed. They say, well, look at that. He twisted his body like a pretzel. You know what a pretzel is? So people become like overwhelmed when they see these things, the twisting of the body like this, or the acrobat, or the person who's walking on a string, like, 50 feet in the air, balancing himself. So they get all excited when they see these things, but actually it's just the material body of the person. It's not the real person. The real person is the spirit soul and its eternal relationship with Krishna. So therefore, the devotee, the pure spiritual conception makes the devotee immune to all contamination of material association. The pure devotee never forgets the touch of the Lord in all circumstances. In other words, none of these things can happen without the presence of Krishna. Nothing moves without the will of Krishna. So, coming to these types of realizations of Krishna's omnipotence, complete power in all circumstances, and the source of everything, this makes you very sober, and you're not illusioned by all these, let's say, acrobats. They're doing back flips and then front flips and jumping way up in the air and twisting their body. Well, you see all these things, you get bewildered by it. You say, wow, how did that person do that? But actually, the truth is, it's only possible because of the presence of Paramatma and the Jiva. It's not because they have some special power in the body. The power is always the same. It's coming from Krishna. Okay, so the pure devotee never forgets the touch of the Lord in all circumstances. He doesn't see anything separate from Krishna. That's a devotee. So, to get to that point, it's very necessary to hear on a regular basis this knowledge. Now I want to go back 2 verses where I want to explain, you see the words Bhakti Yoga and then you see the words Buddhi Yoga. Is there a difference between the two? Well, let's see what Prabhupada says. So if we go to the 10th chapter, 10th verse, Bhagavad Gita, and it says, Desam satyayuktanam bhajtam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So in that verse, he's talking about buddhi yoga. Now, is there a difference between buddhi yoga and bhakti yoga? Well, the 2 words are used synonymously often. But when you read the purport to 10.10, it says, who would like to read the purport 10.10? One of the ladies? Go ahead. Sure, you'll get a chance also, don't worry.
Thank you. Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Haribol.
Translation. To those who are constantly devoted to serving me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Purport. In this verse, the word Buddhi Yogam is very significant. We may remember that in the 2nd chapter, the Lord, instructing Arjuna, said that he had spoken to him of many things and that he would instruct him in the way of Buddhi Yoga. Now, Buddhi Yoga is explained. Buddhi Yoga itself is action in Krishna consciousness. That is the highest intelligence. Buddhi means intelligence, and yoga means mystic activities or mystic elevation. When one tries to go back home, back to Godhead, and takes fully to Krishna consciousness in devotional service, this action is called...
His action.
So his action is called Buddhi Yoga.
There it is. That's the definition. So, is there a difference between Bhakti Yoga and Buddhi Yoga? Theoretically, no, but Buddhi Yoga is specific when one decides they want to go back to Godhead. They're not going to do anything else other than serving Krishna. They don't care anymore about anything else. They just want to go back to Godhead. And they're going to do everything to attain that goal. So Buddhi means intelligence, and yoga means mystic activities or mystic elevation. When one tries to go back home, back to Godhead, and takes fully to Krishna consciousness in devotional service, his action is called Buddhi Yoga. Okay, go ahead.
In other words, Buddhi Yoga is the process by which one gets out of the entanglement of this material world. The ultimate goal of progress is Krishna. People do not know this. Therefore, the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master are important. One should know that the goal is Krishna, and when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved. When a person knows the goal of life but is addicted to the fruits of activities, he is acting in Karma Yoga.
Okay, so now we're seeing some differences between different stages of yoga. Okay, go ahead.
When he knows that the goal is Krishna, but he takes pleasure in mental speculations to understand Krishna, he is acting in Jnana Yoga. And when he knows the goal and seeks Krishna completely in Krishna consciousness and devotional service, he is acting in Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga, which is the complete yoga.
So now we see Bhakti Yoga and Buddhi Yoga are synonymous if the only goal is to please Krishna. Okay, this complete yoga is the highest professional stage of life. Right. So you could say that Bhakti Yoga or Buddhi Yoga are synonymous, yes. But you cannot say that Karma Yoga or Jnana Yoga are synonymous with Buddhi Yoga or Bhakti Yoga. Because there's still some I want. I enjoy speculation, or I enjoy, the fruits of my activities. So this is good to understand, because Lord Chaitanya is aiming everyone toward pure devotional service so that you can go back to Godhead. You cannot go as long as it's mixed devotional service. Okay, keep going.
A person may have a bona fide spiritual master and may be attached to a spiritual organization. But if he is
But still
not intelligent enough to make progress, then Krishna from within gives him instructions so that he may ultimately come to him without difficulty. The qualification is that a person always engage himself in Krishna consciousness and with love and devotion render all kinds of services. He should perform some sort of work for Krishna, and that work should be with love. If a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress on the path of self-realization, but is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him.
So you see, it doesn't depend on academic qualifications. If a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress on the path of self-realization, but is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him. So you see, the path is open for everyone. It's not a stratified process where you have to get your your Bachelor of Arts, and then you get your you get the different levels of knowledge, and then you attain pure devotional service. No. You get your Bachelor of Arts, you get your master's degree, and then you get your PhD, and then you get a double PhD and a triple PhD. That is not the qualification. You might not even have a Bachelor of Arts or a master's degree. You might have nothing. However, if a devotee is not intelligent enough to make progress on the path of self-realization, but is sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, the Lord gives him a chance to make progress and ultimately attain to him. These are amazing statements that have very big meaning, and it completely debunks all sort of criticisms of Krishna consciousness. Oh, well, they all want to be brahmanas, they want to do this, they want to do that. No. Everyone is welcome. Everyone can make spiritual advancement. It's not dependent on how many degrees you have. In fact, the more degrees you have, the less qualified you become often because of being puffed up. You know, so it's better maybe not to have any degrees, but just be completely dedicated to pleasing Guru and Krishna. Then everything is provided by the Lord. Okay, so that explains Buddhi Yoga as the summum bonum, or you make a complete decision that I'm going to go back to Godhead. I'm not going to do anything else from this point on except loving devotion to Krishna. So therefore it says, Buddhi Yoga is the process by which one gets out of the entanglement of this material world. The ultimate goal of progress is Krishna. People do not know this. Therefore, the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master are important. One should know that the goal is Krishna, and when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved. Notice the word slowly. There's no hurry-curry here. We're not doing, the fast track, overnight samadhi. This is a slow process, and it's based on regulated principles. You have to be regulated for making devotional service and advancement. Okay, so there are no what you would call, superstars in the in this process. It's just like there's a story in Aesop's fables of the race between the turtle and the rabbit. You know that story? Yes? Okay, who wants to explain the story? The turtle and the rabbit. You want to explain it? Yes. Give him the microphone. Give him the microphone. Thank you.
Once upon a time, there was a rabbit. He felt so puffed up because he thought he was the fastest one in his village, and he had a meeting with the other animals in his village too, including a wise turtle. When they had the conversation, they were all talking about how fast the rabbit was. But the turtle started laughing and saying that he was fast, but not fast enough. So they had a race. And the rabbit said whoever would win the race would be the fastest. Everybody started cheering on the rabbit before the race started. So when the race
everyone started what?
Cheering on the rabbit.
Cheering the rabbit, yeah.
So when the race started, the rabbit was zooming past the turtle. The turtle was going slow, very slow. Well, what happened was the rabbit soon felt tired and he saw a tree. So he went to the tree and he took a deep nap. The turtle was so slow that because he took a deep nap, he was not paying attention. So then the turtle went right past the rabbit, but because of how slow he was, he didn't make any sound to wake up the rabbit. So when the rabbit woke up, the turtle was like 10 inches away from the finish line. So the rabbit tried as hard as he could to speed up and get to the finish line, but the turtle already hit it. And there's a saying that goes with it, slow and steady wins the race. That's the saying.
Well, it's the same thing here. It says, thank you very much, that one should know that the goal is Krishna, and when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved. There you go. So we should be patient and perseverant, not be disturbed by any obstacles or problems, and have complete faith in Krishna. And we will go back to Godhead, no doubt about it. And Krishna will help us as long as we're not vacillating between periods of sense gratification and periods of devotional service. We just eliminate completely sense gratification. Then everything works in a miraculous way. And then the turtle can beat the rabbit. Right? So you see, when someone is puffed up, false prestige, there's a saying from Greek tradition. It says, who the gods want to destroy, first they make the person proud. So as soon as they become falsely proud about, oh, I can do this, I can do that, just like the rabbit was falsely proud. Yeah, he could run much faster than the turtle. But he was not perseverant like the turtle. And therefore, although the rabbit should have won that race, he lost because he was not able to focus his mind. So that is the question. How much focus of the mind do we have? If we are addicted to binary technology, you lose the ability to focus the mind. Binary technology means the internet. It's based on binary technology. 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0. So therefore, it takes you on this ride, this roller coaster, you know. Just like one time, his wife told her husband, "Go to Costco. They have bananas on sale. Buy some." He said, "Sure, okay, no problems." So he drives over to Costco. But to get to the bananas, which are all the way in the back of the store, he's got to walk through the store to get there. By the time he walks through the store, he's already bought like a new sit down. What do you call those? Sit down lawnmower. Cost $2,000. He bought a 96-inch television, right? And bought a new watch for himself, right? Bought a couple toys for his kids, right? So then he goes home, and the wife said, "Did you go to Costco?" He said, Yeah, I went there. He said, "Did you get that bananas?" He said, "Oh my God, I forgot." Said, "What? So what did you get?" He said, "Well, I got a brand new sit-down tractor, and I got a 96-inch television set." So you see, psychologically, they plan the way the store is set up so that people, to get to the discounted bananas, they have to go through the whole store, and they see all these things on sale, right? And then they get distracted. And that's what binary technology is also. It distracts your mind. And you're not able to focus on one thing. Like the turtle, he was focused on one thing. That was win the race. Right? And although he should have lost the race, he didn't, because he was focused. Whereas the rabbit wasn't focused. Right? The rabbit was, contaminated by the internet. So therefore, he thought, this stupid turtle will never win the race. I could take a little bit of rest and then finish the race. So see, these puffed up, nonsensical types of concepts that people have means that they're going to lose the race. Just like Elon Musk, right? He's going to lose the race. He's never going to go to Mars. He's never going to set up a community on another planet. It's all crazy stuff, right? In the same way, then nobody went to the moon. They have nothing to show for it. And all their theories are just, most of them are just nonsense. So, therefore, when you become very sober and realize, look, the only reality is the relationship of my soul to Paramatma, who's in my heart, and ultimately Krishna is the soul of the soul. He's this origin of Paramatma and the Purusha avatars and everything. So once you get that understanding and you stick to it, you're no longer fooled by the material world and all of its so-called strategies to become rich. So every day there's a new strategy how you can become rich, right? Do you see those on the internet? Right? Huh?
Yeah, there are a lot of people comes up with some ideas.
Yeah, every day. You can become rich without using your money, using other people's money by flipping houses. So they get this interesting word, flipping a house. In other words, you buy a house and you flip it, and all of a sudden you made, $10,000 overnight. It's not like that. Believe me, it's not that easy. But see, they say, oh no, I can teach you how to do it, and I started with nothing and now I have, $10 billion in the bank. And, people get fooled by this. Just like a dear friend of mine once called me up and said, Hari, I'm going to help you build your new temple. This was years ago, before we had this temple. I said, really? He said, yeah. I'm going to be able to make millions of dollars in the next 6 months to a year. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, millions? He said, yeah. I said, how's that? He said, oh, foreign currency. I said, foreign currency? I said, what are you going to buy foreign currency? He said, yeah. And it goes up, and then I sell it, and I make a lot of money. I said, Prabhu, just a little caution here. If it sounds too good to be true, don't do it. He said, Hari, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, I don't know what I'm talking about. Then I realized he had gone crazy when he said that. I told him, look, if you don't make money so easily. Just like there's a story, one man heard this proverb that money attracts money. So one day he went to the bank, and the bank teller just closed her, she was counting all the money. It was near the end of the day. So he was watching her. So he took a $10 bill and threw it over the window, and it went into her pile of money. And she saw it, but she just put it into her pile of money and is counting it. So after some time, she saw this guy just watching her all the time. She said, sir, is there something I can do for you? He said, no. She said, why are you watching me like this? He said, I'm just waiting. She said, waiting for what? He said, well, I was taught that money attracts money. So I threw my $10 over into your pile, and I'm waiting for the money to come back with more money. She said, sir, my money attracted your money. You see, this is what's going on in reality. They give you a false mantra, and then you say, oh, now I understand how it works. I just throw some money on somebody else's money, and then it'll all come back to me. No, that's not the way. It all goes to that person. Right? They attracted your money. So in the same way, my friend, I said, look, please, I'm begging you, don't do this. He said, Harry, you don't know what you're talking about. Then I realized, he was too far gone into illusion, right? That I didn't want to lose him as a friend and get angry at him or something like that. So I said, okay, I hope it succeeds, Well, it did succeed. He gave them $100,000. It took him like 10 years to save, right? So he took his whole savings and gave it to them, right? And they were saying, every month you'll get 10% interest. So the first month went by, and he got $10,000 check. So then he went to see his mother, who also had $50,000 in her savings. She was a much older lady. And he convinced her to give him the $50,000 so he can invest that also. Once that was done, now he has his $100,000. It took him 10, 20 years to save. And he's got his mother's $50,000. It took her a lifetime to save it, right? Then something happened. What happened? Well, after a couple months, I called him. I said, "How's everything going? Is the money piling up?" He said, "Well, there's been a little problem. It's all George Bush's fault." I said, "George Bush? What does he have to do with all this?" Well, he changed some rules about foreign currency trading. And now, the money is there. The money is there, but there's some problem about transferring it. I said, my dear friend, I told you not to do it. No, you don't know what you're talking about. I said, okay. He was still in illusion. He lost everything. He had to go back and work to make his mother's money and his own money back again. They took every penny from him. And how did they do it? They paid for his visit to Hawaii, where they do this, pep talk for like 4 or 5 days, And and they treated him like a king, right? And he thought, this is like exactly what I want. I got my Hawaiian shirt on with all these big people that are making millions of dollars. And right, this can't be a fraud. It's impossible. It's not a fraud. The whole thing was a fraud from beginning to end. And they got his $150,000, his mother's savings, his savings. No mercy. And then they blame it on George Bush. Oh, he changed the foreign currency transfer, blah, blah, blah. You see, this is going on a major, level. This cheating, this lying, this fraud. Then what happened, they kept saying, well, next month. And then they stopped communicating. So he kept calling these different numbers that he had. They had all been canceled. Then the cold turkey began. He suddenly realized he had been cheated. Suckered, lost everything. and he can't communicate with anyone. They all left. There's no office. There's no foreign currency. There's nothing, right? Nothing but his loss of all his funds. And this is a true story. Now, I'm not going to give the name of the person, but this actually happened, And I begged him. I said, "Don't do it. If it sounds too good to be true, it's not true." He didn't listen to me. This is going on a regular basis all over the country. Just like when Prabhuji was in India, his wife got a call and said that your husband is going to be arrested as soon as he comes back to America. Is this true, Prabhu? Yeah. Some guy calls her up from nowhere and says your husband's going to be arrested when he comes back to America. First of all, how did they know the husband is not in America, So she got so scared, and she got worried, right? And did she call you?
She called Tarka Prabhu and Dr.
Yeah. And we told her, I think what we told her is, don't worry about it. It's a fraud. But she was scared stiff. She was ready to send money or do anything that they wanted. See, these are the type of things that are going on today. And especially older people, they get scared. Someone calls them up. Yeah?
Students also.
What?
So a lot of students until a few years back in our work, so they just joined as interns. They got called and said, your visa status is wrong. Police is coming to arrest you. Immediately, if you put down the phone and talk to somebody, we'll send somebody to arrest you. You got to immediately go to a nearby store where they have the wire transfer. You got to send the money. There are so many people send the money.
Hallelujah. You see? So, what's being said here? The ultimate goal of progress is Krishna. People do not know this. Therefore, the association of devotees and a bona fide spiritual master are important. One should know that the goal is Krishna, and when the goal is assigned, then the path is slowly but progressively traversed, and the ultimate goal is achieved. This is what we should keep into our mind. This is what should be our focus. Krishna is the real goal of life. There's no other goal. It's not, going to Mars with Elon Musk, SpaceX. I mean, that's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. And people believe it. It's beyond being stupid, right? And people believe these things. See, and I mean, it hurts to even talk about it because it's so stupid, right? So we need to become sober. This hearing Bhagavad Gita, even these few sentences, is so important. We should not ignore this. Okay, so then there's one other thing I want to discuss from previous verses, and that's the 6th chapter. '24th verse to 24th verse to 31. That was some homework I gave yesterday. Did anybody do it? Huh? Yes, okay. So let's read those. 25?
25 to 20.
Well, let's start with 24. Go ahead. You can read. Give her the microphone. Everyone will get a chance to read now.
Bhagavad Gita 6.24. Translation. One should engage oneself in the practice of yoga with determination and faith and not be deviated from that path. One should abandon without exception all material desires born of mental speculation and thus control all the senses on all sides by the mind. Purport. The yoga practitioner should be determined and should patiently prosecute the practice without deviation. One should be sure to success at the end and pursue this course with great perseverance, not becoming discouraged.
Perseverance.
Not becoming discouraged if there is any delay in the attainment of success. Success is sure for the rigid practitioner.
Remember that for the rest of your life. Success is sure for the rigid practitioner. That means you become really dedicated to following all the rules and regulations. Then your success is assured. Go ahead.
Regarding Bhakti Yoga, Rupa Goswami says,
Utsahan nischayataya tatat karma pavartanat sangatyagat sato vrite sadbir bhakti prasidyate. Go ahead.
one can execute the process of Bhakti Yoga successfully with full-hearted enthusiasm, perseverance, and
perseverance.
Perseverance.
Perseverance, yeah.
And determination.
No, I'm sorry, perseverance. Perseverance. See, in English, you put all the emphasis on the first syllable. In French, you put all the emphasis on the second syllable. So if you say perseverance, that's a wrong way of reading it in English. It's perseverance. Perseverance. Go ahead.
I'll try that, Maharaj. Perseverance and determination by following the prescribed
perseverance. Not perseverance. It's perseverance. Yes.
Okay. And determination by following the prescribed duties in the association of devotees and by engaging completely in activities of goodness. Upadeshamrita 3. As for determination, one should follow the example of the sparrow who lost her eggs in the waves of the ocean. A sparrow laid her eggs on the shore of the ocean, but the big ocean carried away the eggs on its waves. The sparrow became very upset and asked the ocean to return her eggs. The ocean did not even consider her appeal. So the sparrow decided to dry up the ocean. She began to pick out the water in her small beak, and everyone laughed at her for her impossible determination. The news of her activities spread, and at last Garuda, the gigantic bird carrier of Lord Vishnu, heard it. He became compassionate toward his small sister bird, and he came to see the sparrow. Garuda was very pleased by the determination of the small sparrow, and he promised to help. Thus, Garuda at once asked the ocean to return her eggs, lest he himself take up the work of the sparrow. The ocean was frightened at this and returned the eggs. Thus, the sparrow became happy by the grace of Garuda. Similarly, the practice of yoga, especially Bhakti Yoga, in Krishna consciousness may appear to be a very difficult job. But if anyone follows the principles with great determination, the Lord will surely help. For God helps those who help themselves.
So remember that. God helps those who help themselves. These are all profound purports by Prabhupada. Okay, who wants to read text 25?
Hare Krishna.
Anybody?
I can read words.
Yeah, go ahead.
Bhagavad Gita 6.25. Translation. Gradually, step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. Purport. By proper conviction and intelligence, one should gradually cease sense activities. This is called pratyahara. The mind being controlled by conviction, meditation, and cessation from the senses should be situated in trance or samadhi. At that time, there is no longer any danger of becoming engaged in the material conception of life.
Whoa, see? Material conception of life. Go ahead.
In other words, although one is involved with matter as long as the material body exists, one should not think about sense gratification. One should think of no pleasure aside from the pleasure of the Supreme Self. This state is easily attained by directly practicing Krishna consciousness.
Okay, so you see, what is being taught in all the schools today is the material conception of life. Now, I've been speaking about this for years, but nobody believes me. When I say nobody believes me, I mean very few people believe it. This material conception of life is extremely dangerous because it can sidetrack a person their whole life. And it's explained right there in that third panel. If you can understand what that means, you would never send your children to these schools because it's an indoctrination that will ruin their life forever. You just keep them in a cycle of birth and death. And for us also, all of us have been poisoned by this material conception of life. We have to learn what it is. There are two things we have to learn. One is the material conception of life, and two is the laws of material nature, which I'm preparing that panel now. Once we understand those two things, we become extremely sober, and we realize, I'm not going to compromise now at all. I'm going to be strictly on the side of Krishna. I'm not going to be a little bit on this side, and then go a little bit on that side, and then come back and go a little bit on this side. No more side by side. I'm not going to be playing hopscotch on the two sides. I'm just staying on the right side from now on. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Text 26.
Yes.
Translation. From wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. Purport. The nature of the mind is flickering and unsteady, but a self-realized yogi has to control the mind. The mind should not control him. One who controls the mind, and therefore the senses as well, is called Goswami or Swami, and one who is controlled by the mind is called Godasa or the servant of the senses. A Goswami knows the standard of sense happiness. In transcendental sense happiness, the senses are engaged in the service of Rishikesha or the supreme owner of the senses, Krishna. Serving Krishna with purified senses is called Krishna consciousness. That is the way of bringing the senses under full control. What is more, this is the highest perfection of yoga practice.
What is more, that is the highest perfection.
What is more, that is the highest perfection of yoga practice.
Okay, now see, this is a very important statement. There is Godasa, the servant of the senses, and there's Goswami or Swami, one whose senses are controlled by the mind. So, how do you control the senses? You follow the regulative principles. You eat only prasadam. You don't go to Disneyland. What are you gonna what are you gonna do in Disneyland? Just waste your money, basically, and just spend the whole afternoon or day in nonsense. All make believe stuff. Donald Duck and Mickey Mouse and Dumbo. You go down the list. It's all nonsense, right? So you have to make this decision. There is sense gratification in the sense that when you take prasadam, you gratify the senses. Is it not? When you take a shower, you gratify the senses. When you put on tilak and you put on clean clothes, you're gratifying the senses, right? But it's all based on Krishna consciousness. If you do these other things, like go to, Disneyland and then go to Yosemite Park and then go here and go there, and you're not really satisfying the senses, although it seems like it is. You're agitating the senses. And once they're agitated in these false pursuits, you get contaminated. You develop all these different desires that have nothing to do with Krishna consciousness. Very good. So then next, who wants to read?
I can read, Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
The yogi whose mind, it's 627. The yogi whose mind is fixed on me verily attains the highest perfection of transcendental happiness. He is beyond the mode of passion. He realizes his qualitative identity with the Supreme, and thus he is freed from all reactions to past deeds. Purport: Brahma Bhuta is the state of being free from material contamination and situated in the transcendental service of the Lord. Mad Bhaktim Labhate Param. Bhagavad Gita 18:54. One cannot remain in the quality of Brahman, the Absolute, until one's mind is fixed on the lotus feet of the Lord. Savai Mana Krishna Padara Vindayo. To be always engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, or to remain in Krishna consciousness, is to be factually liberated from the mode of passion and all material contamination.
Wow, the mode of passion. Phew. That's what everybody is in. The mode of passion and ignorance. Rajas and tamas. And it's sad. They're just ruining their lives.
Especially passion, Maharaj. If you go to school or even work, they talk so much about, being passionate. Are you passionate about it? So it almost feels like they don't want you to be in a neutral state at any point.
Well, passion has different levels of meaning, but usually it's about being overwhelmed with sense desires. And it's uncontrollable. It's always in the mind.
But can the passion be for a good cause?
Well, no. How could it be good? Because
Krishna's love, we want to get passion. We listen to the
but we're supposed to act in a mode of goodness, not in a mode of passion. Those are karmi statements, we're passionate about this, or passionate about that, passionate about Krishna, But no, you approach Krishna through the mode of goodness, not through the mode of passion. Now, of course, passion has different meanings, different levels of meanings. But no, if you're going to be dealing with Krishna, you have to approach him through the mode of goodness, not through the mode of passion. The difference is that the mode of passion is you're mostly concerned about what it's going to do for you. You're not so much interested in what it's going to do for Krishna. Or there might be some little part for Krishna, but the main part is for you. You see. So, we have to understand what these words mean. You approach Krishna not through the mode of passion, you approach Krishna through the mode of goodness. The mode of goodness, you have control of the senses and the mind. The mode of passion, you're being controlled by the senses and the mind.
Can it be material tension? I mean, like material versus spiritual anxiety. They say we should have a spiritual anxiety, not the material
Anxiety?
anxiety.
Who says that?
Prabhupada say, Kamal Krish Maharaj went and said, I am having a lot of
Anxiety.
because I need to bring a lot of funds and build this temple, this. Prabhupada says, that's very good. You keep that. You need to have spiritual anxiety. I have anxiety all the time, but not on the material platform, but on the spiritual.
Well, there's always going to be the difference between the material platform and the spiritual platform. So being responsible to accomplish a goal and having certain anxiety about it, that may be a fact. But there's a difference between that anxiety to reach the goal for Krishna and the anxiety, mundane anxiety. Yeah. But, if I was to tell you that you don't want to mix the two up. Okay? You don't want to mix the two up. So better just stick to always being concerned about achieving the goal to please Krishna and Prabhupada. Okay, anyway, I think we can... you were going to read one more?
Yes,
Go ahead.
Bhagavad Gita 6.28. Translation. Thus the self-controlled yogi, constantly engaged in the yoga practice, becomes free from all material contamination and achieves the highest stage of perfect happiness in transcendental loving service to the Lord. Purport. Self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. The individual soul is part and parcel of the Supreme, and his position is to render transcendental service to the Lord. This transcendental contact with the Supreme is called Brahma Samsparsha.
Being in constant touch with the Supreme through devotional service, yes. So it says here, self-realization means knowing one's constitutional position in relationship to the Supreme. That's what we are studying every day, to understand our relationship with Krishna. If we understand our relationship with Krishna, then we'll be free of all difficulties in life. So it takes time to come to that point. Okay, so we'll stop right there. I know we're way over time. Anyway, it's a nice day today. It's almost like a holiday, so we'll take that little extra time. And we'll finish this tomorrow. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Maharajji, the Bhagavatam verse which we discussed in the last sentence, the pure devotee never forgets the touch of the Lord in all circumstances. So does this touch means remembrance here?
Where are you reading from?
In the Bhagavatam verse, the one which we discussed.
The pure devotee never forgets the touch of the Lord in all circumstances.
Is that touch means remembrance here?
Krishna is present in every atom of the universe. So anything you do, you're in touch with the Lord. You have to be, because He's present everywhere. Some people realize it, some people don't realize it. So for the devotee, notice it says the pure devotee never forgets the touch of the Lord in all circumstances. Well, the non-pure devotee always forgets touch of the Lord in all circumstances. So this is talking about the pure devotee. So as a pure devotee, you know, look, none of this could have happened without Krishna sanctioning it. So he has his plan, and I'll just be very patient and follow the regulative principles more strictly, chant my rounds better, and not be, not freak out and get all, flustered. Okay? This is talking about the pure devotee. Never forgets the touch of Krishna in everything. Okay, we'll stop right there. Thank you very, very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ladies, want to sing? You want to sing?
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakati Sadma
Bando Mui Savadhana Mate जहार प्रसादे भाई ए भव तोरिया जाय कृष्ण प्राप्ति हो जहाँ होइते गुरुमुख पद्म वाक्य चित्ते ते कोरिया क्या आरना कोरी हो मने आशा श्री गुरु चरणे रति हे से उत्तम गति जे प्रसादे पूरे सर्व आशा चक्षुदान दिलो जय जन्मे जन्मे प्रभु से दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशितो प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते अविद्या विनाशा जाते वेदे गाय जहाँ रचरितो श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधाम चरण बंधु लोकनाथ लोकेर जीवाना हा हा प्रभु करो दया देहो मोरे पद छाया हे बेग्रास कुशुक त्रिभुवाना श्रील प्रभुपाद पतित पावाना जय प्रभुपदा 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 श्रील प्रभुपदा जय जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमः ॐ विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी निति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय प्रभुपदा प्रभुपदा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद
Advaita
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhu, Bol Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Jai.
Repeat after speech, bow down to his lotus feet, the great and reverence.
Materials purified by birds emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From his ecstatic remembrance is by him ignorance is destroyed. The Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, the friend of poor, and the Lord of the master of the devotees. O Loknath Goswami, O Master, O Pilgrim Simran, give me shade of your lotus feet. Your pilgrimage spread all over the three worlds. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.